What is going on, my Houston Texans family? Hope you all are having a blessed Wednesday. It is cold out there. Let's have a fun conversation because this has been playing in the back of my mind since the Houston Texans walked into the Stroud house and walked out with the W. If you win on Sunday Night Football in Arrowhead against the Kansas City Chiefs, it's going to be a hard time for me to not say that this Houston Texans team has an opportunity to represent the AFC South. Yes, I am talking Super Bowl because you have every right to. After starting 0-3, winning 7 out of your last 9, being on a 4-game win streak, beating the Jacksonville Jaguars, playoff teams, beating the Buffalo Bills, playoff team MVP quarterback Josh Allen, beating the Indianapolis Colts, the highest scoring offense in the NFL. And if you win on Sunday against those Kansas City Chiefs, against the Swifties, this will be the greatest 5-game stretch in Houston Texans regular season history. And I truly do mean that. But we're going to first shout out to Sleeper because they are powering and sponsoring this episode. The NFL season is here, which means you now have a chance to 1,000 times your cash on daily fantasy football. Football has never been more exciting than it is now with players like CJ Stroud, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Justin Jefferson. Pick on stats for these stars like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for up to a 1,000 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right, and you could win big. Use promo code 713HOU and you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Sleeper is also giving you a free $20 entry. No deposit needed. Just type in 713HOU. The biggest game of the season is here. And I've been saying that phrase, biggest game of the season, the last month and a half, which is why when I say that this 4-game winning streak that you're on is already impressive. Getting a win against the Kansas City Chiefs in their house, ending their season, it would be talked about how this Houston Texans team is dangerous. I mean, they're already talking about this Houston Texans team being dangerous, but this Houston Texans team being looked at as someone who could potentially represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I understand the New England Patriots are hot. I understand the Denver Broncos are doing what they're doing. But this Houston Texans defense, it's special. When you talk about this defense, you have to lump them in with the Legion of Boom, with the Baltimore Ravens team that won the Super Bowl in the early 2000s. They're that damn special. Just think about it, man. Jacksonville, Buffalo, Indianapolis, Kansas City, playoff teams, MVP quarterback, Super Bowl winning quarterback, Super Bowl winning head coach. This will be everything we have ever asked for, right? When it comes to big wins, there's 4 of them right there. And they didn't come early in the season. They came later on when you were 0-3, where you really have been fighting for your life since week 4, if we're being honest with ourselves. That's why I don't think it's crazy to say that if the offense just gives you 20 points, this Houston Texans team has an opportunity to win out and end their season at 12-5, which would be absolutely insane. But you have to have that conversation because it's already being had. How many of you have thought, if we win against Kansas City on Sunday, why can't we go to the Super Bowl? Why can't we make a deep playoff run? Because you're going to win this game on Sunday because of how great your defense is. I still expect the offense to be what it's been all year, But the way the Kansas City offensive line, without Josh Simmons, without Trey Smith, they're banged up. They're not what they are. It's their last shot. They're going to give you everything they have. I think the Houston Texans are going to be able to manage that and, just make life hell for Pat Mahomes on Sunday Night Football. You could argue this win against Kansas City could be, your biggest regular season win ever in franchise history, as you stamp that the Houston Texans are a real deal and a legit threat this season. And by doing that, they eliminated the Kansas City Chiefs, the dynasty. It's absolutely insane that we're talking like this after starting 0-3. Well, I mean, we've talked about this, this stat that only one team has ever done it. And by I mean done it, I mean start 0-3, then get into the playoffs. It was the 2018 Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson. Remember that? Demaryius Thomas, RIP to him. We make the big trade for him. I believe you have Tyrann Mathieu that year. Speaking of Tyrann Mathieu, he says he would want to come play right now and come out of retirement for this Houston Texans defense. We also have some news. The Texans waive left guard Laken Tomlinson. A fail. A fail. However, I'm glad that I no longer have to worry about Laken Tomlinson being my left guard. Titus Howard, that's his spot as long as Trenton Brown is healthy at right tackle. But you cannot tell me that the Houston Texans are on one of their greatest runs, in the regular season history with how this is all gone down. So it leads me to my next question. And let me know in the comments down below. What is your confidence in CJ Stroud going forward? Now, we have this conversation every Tuesday or Wednesday during the season. We're going to have it again. I said last week my confidence in CJ Stroud was at a 5. I'll bump it up to a 6, 6.5. Now, it wasn't all pretty for CJ Stroud. The rust was there. And it was something that he even talked about, right? He said, I hope it's as early. I hope I knock the rust off as early as, the first play. If not, it will come later. And it did come later. I think with CJ Stroud, in the second half, we saw him start to trust his offensive line. We saw him start to really stand firm in that pocket and at times step up in that pocket. Now, he still takes ugly sacks and step backs, and that needs to be worked at. That's something that he could learn from Davis Mills. But CJ Stroud in the second half against a pretty good Indianapolis Colts defense was making key throws. And I mean, throws that we saw him make in year one. Like, I really do love that Kate Stover first down. You talk about him finding Nico Collins multiple times in the second half. Nico Collins continues to terrorize the Indianapolis Colts. You talked about CJ Stroud trusting his tight end Dawson Schultz. Dawson Schultz, after a pretty quiet 3 games with Davis Mills, no surprise when he gets here with CJ Stroud, they start to put up numbers. We saw Jaden Higgins being utilized more. Very effective. He had another solid day. I think it was 50 plus yards from Jaden Higgins. We saw Woody Marks be your lead back. The offense in the second half is what you've been kind of wanting to see all year. And that is an offensive line that could pass protect. Only 2 sacks allowed against Indianapolis. I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week. There was 1 sack that was, just solely a one-on-one rep on Ed Ingram. That normally doesn't happen. Able to create, lanes for the RBs. It wasn't all pretty for the Houston Texans rushing attack, but they kept at it. They started wearing down the Indianapolis Colts front 4. And as the game went on, you started seeing more success from Woody Marks, more success from Nick Chubb. It feels like the big yardage that they get is later in the football game, and that's kind of what you want. Speaking of Woody Marks, I love what he said. He said, like, oh, I always get hurt, but I'm never going to come out the game. Just the toughness on Woody Marks, and he's becoming a fan favorite. I'm still waiting for that big Woody Marks game. Like, I'm still waiting for that 100-yard rush performance, and I feel like it could potentially come. I don't know if it's going to be against Kansas City Chiefs because they can defend the run pretty good, but it's going to come this season. My confidence in CJ Stroud and his offense is at a 6 heading into Kansas City. I mean, you get this win. You look like you did in quarters 3 and 4. You're going to win this football game with the way this defense has been all year. It's crazy how every single week I say this is the biggest game of the season. But man, this might be the biggest. Because after this, you look at the schedule, you see the Cardinals, you see the Raiders, you see the Chargers, then you have the Colts week 18, and you're like, this is really our last true test of the season before you start playing some of those mid-tier teams and teams that you should handle, by the way. Not trying to overlook them, but this is one of your last games with high stakes. I am excited for this matchup. I'm gonna let you know, I'm gonna let you guys know right now. If the Houston Texans walk out of Sunday Night Football with the W, I'm gonna be saying we're gonna go to the Super Bowl. I really am. Everyone's gonna call me delusional. They're gonna say, "How can you say that?" And I'm just gonna say, just look at the way this season has started. Look at the way it has gone. This team has been fighting for its playoff life since week 4. Now they are in the driver's seat. Now everyone's talking about how you don't want to play this Houston Texans team. And if you win on Sunday, that's only going to amplify. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts and comments down below. If the Houston Texans win this game on Sunday, should they be considered, a Super Bowl favorite, even though the New England Patriots are looking awesome, the Denver Broncos are looking awesome? And what is your confidence in CJ Stroud and this Houston Texan offense? I think from an offensive line standpoint, it's probably going to be the best he will have this season. It's better than what he had last year. I think in terms of the utilization of the rookies, Jaden Higgins is being utilized more. Woody Marks is now your clear RB1. And also, they started force feeding Nico Collins. 10 targets to him. It needs to be 12, 15. Regardless, I think the Houston Texans in quarters 3 and 4 showed you what you want to see from this Houston Texan offense. You can win games with that offense in quarters 3 and 4. I cannot wait for Kansas City. I cannot wait to break this game down. Ladies and gentlemen, for more Houston Texans content, you guys all know what to do. Feel free and follow me for more. I love you guys. Episode brought to you and powered by Sleeper. Free $20 entry. No deposit needed. Just type in 713 HOU.